Our planet is pretty big, and honestly, it's kind of weird. There are places where you expect to find treasure, like a mysterious desert island with an X marking the spot. That's the classic setup, right? But then there are other places, totally random and ridiculous, like up someone's nose. Some of the most jaw-dropping treasures have been discovered in the strangest, least likely spots you could imagine. From everyday locations to places that make zero sense, here are 15 treasured finds in unexpected places, and trust us, they'll blow your mind. Let's start off with number 15. The Sri Padmanabhaswamy treasure. In the heart of Kerala is a temple unlike any other. Padmanabhaswamy is a centuries-old structure that hides wealth most people couldn't even imagine. Back in 2011, when officials cracked open 5 of its underground vaults, they found gold coins, diamonds, statues, ceremonial outfits, piles of treasure stacked like myth come to life. But there's one chamber that remains locked to this day, Vault B. No one wants to touch it. Some say 2 cobras guard the entrance. Others claim that opening it would bring natural disaster. Well, it sounds like folklore until you realize that no one has dared to prove it wrong. Official records say it's been opened multiple times with no consequence, but others believe something gold, secrets, or curses is still sealed inside. What's more chilling is that during a court-mandated audit, large portions of gold had mysteriously vanished from the already opened vaults. Whether it's divine protection, corruption, or both, the mystery of Vault B continues to haunt the temple's legacy and keeps everyone guessing what's really inside. Well, what do you think? What's there? Let us know. Number 14. The Siebenberg House Artifacts. Most people move into a new home and maybe replace the carpet or repaint the kitchen. Theo Siebenberg had a different plan. After moving into a house in Jerusalem's Jewish quarter in the 1970s, he began digging, not by accident, either. Theo believed his property sat above ancient Jerusalem, and he wanted to find proof. What followed was a 2-decade-long excavation beneath his own floorboards. He didn't just find history, he unearthed it. Beneath the house were stone-carved rooms, burial vaults, ritual baths, aqueducts, and layers of ancient civilization stretching back thousands of years. Pottery, weapons, coins, mosaics, and glass were pulled from the rubble like clues in a forgotten timeline. The deeper he dug, the further back he traveled. Today, the Siebenberg House is a private museum offering guided tours through one man's relentless quest to connect modern life with the biblical past. He didn't just discover artifacts, he turned a family home into a personal time machine and pulled an entire city's history into his basement. Number 13. The Harrogate Hoard. Everything was normal. David and Andrew Whelan weren't out to make headlines. They were just 2 normal guys with metal detectors scanning a field near Harrogate, hoping to find anything remotely interesting. Their usual spots were under crops, so this one was basically a backup. And yet within minutes they hit something big, like really big. At first glance it looked like an old lead bowl, caked in dirt and nothing special. But as they brushed it clean, small coins peeked through the mud. That's when they called in the pros. What they had actually found was the most significant Viking treasure discovered in Britain in over 150 years. Inside the lead container were 617 coins, 67 silver artifacts, and a rare silver gilt cup, all perfectly packed together like some Viking time capsule. Some items traced back to Scandinavia, Afghanistan, Russia, and Ireland, proof of the incredible reach of Viking trade. It wasn't just a treasure, it was a snapshot of an empire. All from one field nobody really wanted to search that day. Number 12. The Hanuman Doka Palace Treasure. In 2011, while workers were renovating Nepal's historic Hanuman Doka Palace in Kathmandu, they stumbled onto something no blueprint ever mentioned, a hidden storeroom packed with gold and silver ornaments. Tucked away beneath a royal structure that had once housed kings, the chamber held over 300 kilograms of treasure, most of it centuries old. These weren't just trinkets, they were sacred offerings, meticulously crafted symbols of devotion meant for gods and goddesses. The palace itself had weathered political upheaval, royal tragedy, and the rise and fall of dynasties. But this unexpected discovery pulled its legacy back into focus. As restoration efforts continued, workers and archaeologists suspected even more treasure might be hidden in its foundations, and considering the palace once stood at the heart of Nepal's monarchy, before it was abolished in 2008 following a decade-long civil war, it's not unthinkable. Sometimes, history hides in plain sight, buried under stone floors and locked away by time, and sometimes, it waits for a hammer and chisel to bring it roaring back. Number 11. The Bactrian Gold. There are treasures that dazzle, and then there are treasures that survive. The Bactrian gold is both. Found in ancient burial mounds in northern Afghanistan, this stunning collection includes over 20,000 pieces, bracelets, earrings, crowns, and coins, dating from as early as 2200 BC through to 200 AD. The designs reveal a crossroads of empires, blending Persian, Indian, Greek, and Chinese influences into one hauntingly beautiful legacy. But what makes it legendary isn't just the craftsmanship, it's a fact that this treasure survived decades of war. When Soviet troops pulled out in 1989, museum workers, risking everything, secretly sealed the hoard inside a Kabul bank vault to keep it safe from looters and regimes. For years, no one knew where it had gone. Rumors swirled. Some thought it was stolen, others feared it was melted down. But when stability returned, the vault was opened and the gold was intact. It's not just a symbol of ancient Bactria, it's proof that even in chaos, some people will risk their lives to protect beauty. Number 10. Box of Treasures in the Forest. There's something about forests that makes people feel like explorers. Maybe it's the quiet, the mystery, or just the fact that no one really knows what's buried out there. One man found out the hard way that even a casual walk through the woods can turn into something out of a storybook. While trekking through a thick patch of trees, he spotted something odd under a pile of old leaves and rocks, a rusted tin box that looked like it hadn't seen daylight in a century. Inside, it was a strange little time capsule. Like really strange, trinkets, a toy car, an old ring, silver belt buckles, a windmill-decorated clog, and even a photograph of strangers on a boat. There was also a key, small, metal, and clearly important to something. No one knows who hid it or why they never came back. Maybe they forgot, maybe they didn't make it. Either way, it's still out there, reminding everyone that sometimes the forest keeps secrets better than people do. Number 9. The Treasure of Yoda Zielonska. In the mid-1980s, during a demolition project in the Polish town of Ruda Zielonska, workers found something wedged between layers of crumbling stone, a cache of treasure that looked like it belonged in a medieval fantasy. Gold coins, intricate pendants, and silver goblets came spilling out, but it was the woman's crown that stopped everyone in their tracks. Expert analysis linked it to the 14th century, likely worn by Queen Blanca of Valois, the first wife of Charles I of Luxembourg. Alongside the crown was a dazzling chalcedony cameo set in gold, surrounded by emeralds, sapphires, garnets, and pearls. No one really knows why it was hidden, but it may have been part of the royal treasury during a time of political turmoil. The treasure was officially displayed decades later, with rotating exhibitions in the National Museum of Wrocław and the local museum in Ruda Zielonska. It remains one of Europe's most jaw-dropping medieval discoveries, a crown literally buried by time, waiting to be found again. Well, some people are lucky. Number 8. A home renovation find. Well, you don't expect to find treasure while modernizing a basement, but that's exactly what happened to one man renovating his 1940s-era home. He'd already redone the upstairs, so the basement was next. While stripping the walls back to the beams, he spotted something wedged between them, a small, tightly bound green and gray tin box. Curious but not overly hopeful, he popped the lid. Inside were 3 packages wrapped in wax paper and an old newspaper from the 1950s. The first package was full of neatly stacked $20 bills, the second, $50s, and the third, bundles of $100s. Most of the bills dated between 1928 and 1934. He had just uncovered a forgotten fortune, $20,000 in vintage cash. But it didn't stop there. A second box was discovered tucked in the ceiling, adding another $25,000 to the haul. Altogether, he'd found $45,000 just sitting there, aging quietly for decades. He and his wife used the money to pay off their mortgage, an ending far more practical than mythical, but just as satisfying. Number 7. The panegyric to treasure. In 1949, 3 Bulgarian brothers were just digging clay to make bricks near the town of Panegyriște. It was nothing glamorous, just labor to feed their families. But what they pulled from the earth looked more like it belonged in a royal tomb than a construction site. At first, they assumed the strange golden objects were old brass instruments left by traveling performers. But later, it turns out they had uncovered a 13.5-pound hoard of ceremonial Thracian treasure, ritual vessels crafted in the 4th century BC. Among them were rhytons shaped like animal heads, a gold amphora, and fialas used in libation rituals. Every piece was decorated with scenes from Thracian life, myths, and religious ceremonies. These weren't casual drinking cups. They were part of a royal set, likely used by King Sooths III himself. Fearing looters, the brothers handed over their discovery, and it was immediately secured in the vault of the Bulgarian National Bank. Today, replicas tour the globe, but the originals remain national treasures, pieces of a forgotten culture brought back to life by pure accidental luck. Number 6. The Querdale Hoard. Back in 1840, a group of laborers were fixing up a riverbank near the River Ribble in Lancashire when they hit something hard in the mud. They weren't treasure hunters. They were just doing their jobs until they uncovered the largest Viking silver hoard ever found outside of Russia. Buried in a lead chest were over 8,600 pieces of silver, coins, ingots, jewelry, and more, totaling around 88 pounds of raw metal. Some of the items had been bundled up in cloth and pinned with bone fasteners, hinting that whoever buried this wasn't rushing. It was a deliberate, organized stash. Experts dated the Querdale hoard to somewhere between 905 and 910 AD, shortly after the Vikings were driven out of Dublin. The find was declared a treasure trove, and although each worker got to keep 1 coin, the rest was claimed by the Crown and sent to the British Museum. For a group of guys just repairing a bank, it turned into a day that rewrote Viking history in Britain. Number 5. From Roman coin. Find. Dave Crisp didn't set out to make history. He just wanted a good day out with his metal detector in the countryside of Wiltshire. But what he ended up finding beneath the soil was something that would stun archaeologists and coin collectors alike. In 2011, Dave uncovered a stash of 11 ancient Roman silver coins. That alone would be exciting, but it was just the latest chapter in his growing legend. A year earlier, he'd unearthed what became known as the Frome Hoard, over 52,000 Roman coins buried in a massive pot, making it one of the largest ever found in Britain. Unlike most lucky hobbyists, Dave didn't pocket his find. He followed protocol under the UK's 1996 Treasure Act, reporting it to the authorities. The discovery wasn't just about coins. It raised questions about why the Romans buried such vast wealth and never returned. For Dave, it was more than luck. It was a reminder that sometimes ancient history is just a shovel scoop away. Number 4. The Ringlemere Hoard. Cliff Bradshaw could have walked past it a dozen times. After all, to most people, it looked like a crushed tin can, rusted, flattened, and half buried in the dirt. But in 2001, while scanning farmland in Ringlemere, Kent, his metal detector buzzed with promise. What he'd actually found was far from trash. It was the Ringlemere Cup, an ancient, beaten-up but priceless Bronze Age relic made entirely from a single piece of gold. Experts dated it between 1700 and 1500 BC, and though plows had damaged its original form, its value was untouched. The British Museum bought it for a cool £270,000, and Cliff split the money with the farm's owners. Archaeologists believe it was originally placed in a burial mound as a grave offering. Only one other cup like it has ever been found in Britain, the Relics Cup, with a few others turning up in Germany, France, and Switzerland. What looked like scrap metal turned out to be a shimmering echo from a civilization long gone. Number Dre, Confederate Gold. It sounds like something out of a conspiracy novel, but this one's real enough to drag in the FBI. During the American Civil War, whispers began about a Union wagon train carrying Confederate gold vanishing somewhere in northwestern Pennsylvania. Over the decades, rumors piled up. 52 bars of gold, roughly 50 pounds each, lost near a place called Dent's Run in 1863. If that's true, we're talking over $50 million by today's standards. Treasure hunters have been chasing the legend for years, usually finding nothing but rusty nails and beer cans, but in 2018 things got weird. FBI agents were caught digging in the snow near Route 555 in a heavily wooded area. No explanation was given, just a vague statement about court-authorized activity. Then a treasure recovery group called Finders Keepers showed up. The government never admitted to finding anything. No photos, no updates, just a lot of people side-eyeing the woods. So, is the gold still out there, or did someone already walk away rich and silent? Number 2. The Staffordshire Hoard. In 2009, a man with a metal detector was sweeping a farm field near Hammerwich when his machine started going haywire. What he pulled out of the dirt would go on to become the largest Anglo-Saxon treasure trove ever discovered. Buried beneath the soil were over 4,600 items, ornate sword fittings, helmets, religious objects, and gold work so detailed it looked impossible for the time. In total, it included 9 pounds of gold, almost 4 pounds of silver, and thousands of garnets. Most of the items were battle gear, things worn by elite warriors, likely buried during a time of crisis or upheaval. But nobody knows exactly who hid it or why. Some believe it was looted treasure stashed in a hurry. Others think it was part of a ceremonial offering. Either way, the craftsmanship is unmatched, and no other hoard in the UK or Europe even comes close in size or quality. It wasn't just a treasure, it was a missing chapter of Anglo-Saxon power and prestige. Number 1. The Offal Treasure. In 2013, Dr. Eilat Mazar, a third-generation archaeologist with a reputation for chasing history through stone and soil, was working near Jerusalem's Temple Mount. Her excavation wasn't random. This was the Offal, a spot already steeped in ancient echoes. But nothing prepared her team for what they dug up just 5 days into the new phase. Beneath the ruins of a Byzantine public building, hidden for over 1,300 years, sat a cache of treasure that defied expectation. 36 gold coins, intricate silver and gold jewelry, and a gold medallion engraved with a 7-branched menorah. That symbol wasn't just decorative, it was the unmistakable emblem of Jewish identity and survival, etched into precious metal and buried near one of the holiest sites on Earth. The entire find dates back to the early 7th century CE, right before the area was swept up in waves of conquest. It was more than gold. It was a frozen moment, a quiet resistance to the chaos that was about to come. If you found this video interesting, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you soon in the next one.